My own stepbrother told me I didn't belong in nice places. He said it to my face, in front of everyone, like it was a joke. But it wasn't a joke. It stung. Listen, you need to hear this story because what happened next felt like pure karma. This is not just some random drama, this is a life-changing story of betrayal, humiliation, and the sweetest justice served I've ever seen. And the best part? I didn't even have to lift a finger. Picture this. I just moved into a small apartment. I was proud of myself. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Then came the housewarming party, loud music, laughter, everyone drinking and talking. And then my stepbrother turned the whole night into a nightmare. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "You don't belong in nice places." Loud enough so everyone could hear. People laughed. It was the kind of laugh that cuts deeper than words. My chest burned with embarrassment. I felt like shrinking into the floor. But I stayed calm. No shouting, no fighting, no revenge plan. I just smiled, turned around, and walked out. Because deep down, I believed something bigger was at work. And wow, the universe didn't waste any time proving me right. This is where it gets good. The next morning, something happened that flipped the whole story upside down. If you believe in instant karma, you're going to love this. If you don't, well, this might just make you believe. I'm telling you this because I know how it feels when family turns against you. When people you trust try to make you feel small. When they make you question if you even deserve what little good you've worked for. That pain is real. But sometimes life gives you the perfect revenge story, one that doesn't need anger or payback. One that proves justice can be served without you saying a single word. And that's what happened to me. In less than 24 hours, my stepbrother's world turned upside down. The same people who laughed at me the night before? They weren't laughing anymore. And I didn't even have to be there when karma came knocking. So stick with me. Because this is more than just family drama. This is proof that you don't always have to fight back to win. Sometimes the best revenge is staying quiet and letting life handle the rest. What happened next still gives me chills, and I promise, you'll feel it too. I had just moved into that apartment a few weeks earlier, and honestly, I was proud of myself. It wasn't huge or fancy, but it was mine. My little corner of peace. The kind of place you work hard for and finally get to call your own. I wanted to keep it low-key, but my stepbrother decided to throw a housewarming party. And of course, he invited everyone. Family, neighbors, friends I barely knew, it was a full house. At first, it was fine. People were laughing, eating, clinking glasses. I stayed in the corner, just enjoying the moment. But then, out of nowhere, my stepbrother stood up in the middle of his living room and looked straight at me. With that smug grin on his face, he said, "You don't belong in nice places." He said it loud enough so every single person could hear. You know that feeling when time just stops? That's exactly what happened. The room went quiet for half a second, then the laughter started. Not just little chuckles. Loud, echoing laughs that made my face burn. It wasn't just a joke, it felt like a slap in the face. Like I was being told, right there, that I wasn't good enough. I looked around the room, and no one said a word in my defense. Not one person. Some people looked uncomfortable, sure, but most of them laughed with him. And that was the part that hurt the most. This wasn't just a casual insult. It was humiliation. Public humiliation, in my own family. But here's the thing. I didn't explode. I didn't scream or fight back. I stayed quiet. This revenge story didn't need words. Deep down, something in me knew that life has a way of balancing things out. And honestly, looking back, I think that silence was my power. I just walked out. Calmly. No yelling, no drama, no storming off. I left him there, still laughing with his friends. But inside, I was shaking. Not because I was scared, but because I was angry. Angry that someone from my own family could make me feel so small just to look big in front of others. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the scene over and over in my head. The laughter, the smug look on his face, the way nobody defended me. And each time I replayed it, the fire inside me burned a little hotter. I didn't know it then, but something was already in motion. Because less than 24 hours later, that fire turned into the most satisfying moment of my life. The moment that proved instant karma is real. The moment justice was served without me saying a single word. But that part, that's coming. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. After that first comment, you'd think he'd stop. But no, my stepbrother wasn't done. He turned it into a show. He started walking around the room, telling everyone how hard he worked to earn his spot in the building. He kept saying things like, some people just don't get it, these places aren't for everyone. He never said my name again, but he didn't have to. Everyone knew exactly who he was talking about. He bragged about his new furniture, his expensive rent, even his new neighbors. He made it sound like living there was some kind of VIP club and I was just crashing it. Every word was like a little reminder, I didn't belong. And the more he talked, the louder the guests laughed. It wasn't just him anymore, the whole room felt against me. I tried to smile, tried to act like it didn't bother me, but inside I felt my chest tighten. You know that moment when you feel completely out of place? Like you want the floor to just open up and swallow you whole? That was me. I wanted to disappear. But I didn't give him the satisfaction. I just sat there, quiet, listening to him talk himself up like he was some kind of king of the apartment complex. Honestly, his arrogance was almost ridiculous. He kept saying things like, people like me make this place better. And every time he said it, my blood boiled a little more. And then the laughter came again. Louder this time. I could feel every eye in the room on me. It was like they were all waiting for me to react, waiting for me to break. But I didn't. I just stood up. No big speech. No dramatic comeback. I simply grabbed my coat, nodded politely, and walked out. I left without saying a word, but that night something was already in motion. Call it fate, call it karma, call it whatever you want, but the universe was about to answer in a way none of us could have expected. That walk home was the longest I'd ever taken. My mind kept replaying his words, the laughter, the smug look on his face. Part of me wanted to turn around and scream at him. Part of me wanted to post everything online and embarrass him right back. But this wasn't going to be that kind of revenge story. This was going to be the kind of justice served that feels so good because you didn't even have to plan it. You just let life do its thing. And trust me, life did not waste any time. Because by the next morning, everything started to shift. And what happened next? It was so perfect, it felt like a movie. Like the universe had been watching and said, okay, now it's my turn. And when I tell you what went down, you're going to feel that same rush I felt. The very next morning, my phone buzzed. At first, I thought it was just a random notification. But then I heard voices outside my door. Loud, panicked voices. I opened my window just a little, just enough to hear. It was my stepbrother. He was on the phone, pacing back and forth in the courtyard. His voice was sharp, almost shaking. What do you mean my lease is terminated? He shouted. I froze. Terminated? No warning. I leaned closer, heart racing. Property management had called him early that morning. No explanation, just a firm decision. He had to be out. Immediately. No second chance. No negotiation. He begged. I could hear him trying to stay calm, but his voice kept cracking. I can fix this. There must be a mistake. I've paid everything. I've done nothing wrong. The more he spoke, the more desperate he sounded. Then silence. Just him, standing there, phone to his ear, listening. And finally, a scream of frustration. He slammed the phone shut and kicked the wall. I had never seen him like that before, completely powerless. He stormed back inside. Minutes later, he came back out, phone in hand again, calling everyone he knew. The office, the landlord, even friends. He tried to talk his way out of it, but no one could help. The decision was final. I watched from my window, saying nothing. My chest felt tight, but not from anger anymore. From shock. From the unbelievable timing. Less than 24 hours after humiliating me, he was the one standing outside, humiliated, desperate, scrambling to keep what he had. Neighbors started gathering, whispering to each other. Some of the same people who laughed last night stood there now, staring, watching him unravel. It was surreal. Boxes started appearing. His voice got louder. He argued with movers, cursed under his breath, tried to hide his panic, but everyone saw it. It was like the entire building turned into an audience. And he was the show. The guy who said I didn't belong in nice places was now packing his life into cardboard boxes under everyone's gaze. I didn't smile. I didn't cheer. I just stood there quietly, watching the scene unfold like the perfect revenge story playing out in real time. This wasn't just payback, this was instant karma. Pure, undeniable, unstoppable karma. And the best part? Everyone who laughed yesterday saw justice served today. They saw it with their own eyes. No one had to say a word. No one had to explain anything. The message was clear: pride comes before the fall. And he had fallen, hard. I went back inside, sat down, and just breathed. The tension from the night before was gone. Something bigger had stepped in and balanced the scales for me. And I knew, deep down, that this was just the beginning of the lesson he was about to learn. It all happened so fast. One minute he was shouting on the phone, the next minute he was dragging out boxes. The movers came, and suddenly his perfect little apartment was being torn apart piece by piece. Furniture scraping across the floor. Doors slamming. Voices raised. It was chaos. I stayed quiet, watching from my window. I didn't need to be part of the scene. I didn't need to say a single word. The universe was already speaking louder than I ever could. Within hours, the place that had been full of laughter and arrogance the night before was emptying out. Chairs, tables, clothes, all piled up in the hallway like a rushed escape. It felt unreal. This was the same guy who stood in front of everyone and said I didn't belong in nice places. And now he was the one being forced to leave. I saw him stop for a second, hands on his knees, breathing hard. You could see the anger on his face. The humiliation. He wasn't the confident, smug guy from last night anymore. He looked small. Neighbors came out to watch. They didn't say anything, but I could feel the judgment in the air. Everyone who laughed yesterday now stood in awkward silence. And that silence was louder than any apology. I didn't celebrate. I didn't need to. The universe did it for me. This wasn't just some petty revenge story. This was instant karma, clear and undeniable. This wasn't about payback, it was justice served. I sat back down and let out a deep breath. It felt like the air in my apartment was lighter, like a weight had been lifted. Not because he was gone, but because life had shown me something important. Sometimes you don't have to fight to win. The sound of boxes hitting the ground outside kept echoing. Thud after thud. Like punctuation marks to the lesson he was being forced to learn. You could hear the tension in every slam of the door, every curse under his breath. By late afternoon, his apartment was empty. The door stood open, and for the first time, it was quiet. No music. No laughter. No arrogance. Just silence. I glanced out one last time and saw him walking away, his head down, carrying the last box. There was no crowd now. No one cheering him on. No one laughing. Just him, leaving. And in that moment, I felt something powerful. Not anger. Not revenge. Just peace. The kind of peace you feel when life balances the scales for you. When you get to witness the perfect ending without ever lifting a finger. I knew right then that this moment would stay with me forever. Not because he lost, but because I learned. Sometimes the loudest victory is the quiet one. And this was mine. The next morning, my phone buzzed. Early. Too early. I almost didn't pick it up. But something in my gut told me this call was going to be good. It was the property management office. Their tone was sharp, serious. We need to speak with your stepbrother immediately. That's all they said. No explanation. No small talk. Just that. I hung up and waited. Minutes later, I heard it. His phone rang. Then his voice, loud, panicked. What? Terminated? Wait, what do you mean terminated? I froze. Terminated? He stormed into the living room, phone still pressed to his ear, arguing, begging. There has to be a mistake. I just moved in. I just had my housewarming. But there was no mistake. The decision was final. He had until that evening to vacate the apartment. No warning. No negotiation. Pack up and leave. You could see the color drain from his face. He paced the floor, running his hands through his hair, throwing every excuse he could think of. He even tried to get them to talk to the building owner directly, but they wouldn't budge. That was the moment the party from last night flashed through my mind. Everyone laughing at me, pointing fingers. And now, less than 24 hours later, those same people were about to watch him get kicked out of the very place he bragged about. He called friends, called family, trying to rally sympathy. But no one could save him. The management was clear, the lease was over, and the locks would be changed if he didn't leave by the deadline. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. I just watched quietly as he shoved things into boxes, tossing clothes, dishes, even his new couch into the hallway. The sound of packing tape ripping through the air was like music. This wasn't about revenge. This wasn't about me winning. This was justice served. Instant karma at its finest. Everyone who laughed yesterday saw it too. One by one, they showed up, expecting to hang out, but instead, they found him sweating, frustrated, dragging furniture out the door. And just like that, the laughter was gone. I kept my head high. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. The universe had already done the talking for me. And in that moment, I realized something powerful. This was the lesson I didn't know I needed. Sometimes you don't have to fight back. And that's when it really hit me, you don't always need to fight back. Sometimes life handles it for you. That day taught me a lesson I'll never forget: dignity is the best revenge. I didn't have to shout, argue, or prove myself. Karma did all the work. Watching him pack up his fancy apartment while the same people who laughed at me stood in silence was a life lesson I'll carry forever. Justice was served, and it was served fast. Revenge doesn't always look like a big dramatic showdown. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's just standing back, letting the universe do what it does best. And when it happens, it's more satisfying than anything you could have planned. This story reminded me, the best way to win is to keep your dignity, keep your peace, and let karma do its thing. Have you ever seen instant karma like this play out right in front of you? I want to hear your stories. Drop them in the comments, I read every single one. If you love this revenge story and want more satisfying justice moments, hit like, subscribe to Karma Stories TV, and turn on notifications. There are so many more life-changing stories coming your way, and you won't want to miss the next one. Because sometimes, the sweetest revenge is simply watching justice unfold.